They say revenge is a dish best served cold. There can be no more excellent proof for this saying than the story of Ferruccio Lamborghini. Spurned by Enzo Ferrari, he was determined to create a perfect car, which nobody else could give him. When you are considered one of the significant 3 Italian automobiles, I think it's fair to say that he succeeded. From being a prisoner of war to becoming one of the country's wealthiest men, Ferruccio Lamborghini led a very active life. Let's take a look at this. Born in April 1916 to poor peasant parents in Emilia, Italy, Ferruccio recognized early on that mechanics was in his blood. The mechanical aspect of farm machinery, like the tractor, always fascinated him more than the agriculture itself. He liked taking things apart and permanently fixed the farm's mechanical stuff just to save his parents money. Deciding to pursue this as a career, he studied at the Fratelli Taddea Technical Institute. When the Second World War came along, Ferruccio was drafted into the Italian Royal Air Force as a mechanic. He eventually became the supervisor of the vehicle maintenance unit. Tough times soon followed him when he was taken as a prisoner of war by Britain. There was a silver lining, however. Ferruccio was put to work in the motoring department of the British military forces. Reunited with what he loved, Ferruccio gained first-hand experience keeping cars on the road, even with limited supplies. After the war, Ferruccio returned to his hometown and saw an emerging market for agricultural vehicles and equipment. He decided to try his luck at this and manufactured the first of his Carioca tractors. He used military surplus equipment, and the USP of his tractors was undoubtedly the fuel atomizer. This was Ferruccio's creation, a solution for the high prices of petrol in Italy. He designed the tractors to be started with petrol, but would eventually switch to cheaper diesel fuel. This cost-effective solution was a raging success. Ferruccio founded Lamborghini Trattori and began to manufacture tractors. This business made him very wealthy, and he had the means to set up another factory. While the second factory manufactured central heating and air conditioning equipment, all his businesses grew tremendously. Ferruccio was now one of Italy's wealthiest people, and he had the luxury to spend his money in whatever way he liked. If you guessed that he spent the money to buy exotic cars, you're right. Ferruccio's love for fast cars was no secret, and he built up an enviable collection, including Ferrari, Mercedes, Maserati, and Jaguar. No, I'm not just throwing names around. Ferruccio himself admitted it while declaring his admiration for the Ferrari. Now this brings us to the feud. Not just any rivalry, but the feud that led to the establishment of one of the most successful supercar brands in the world. Ferruccio admitted that the Ferrari was one of the best cars he owned. However, a constant problem with the clutch frustrated him. He decided to take this up with Enzo Ferrari himself and gave him a few tips in the process. As expected, this did not go well with Enzo, who was notorious for his pride. He asked Ferruccio to concentrate on making tractors, leaving the manufacturer of sports cars to Enzo. He added that while Ferruccio knew how to drive a tractor, he would never learn to drive a Ferrari. Now, if you haven't realized already, Ferruccio wasn't one to back down from a challenge. He took Enzo's comments personally and vowed to create his own sports car. He had quote-unquote never stopped thinking about the ideal car. All he had to do was construct a plan to build it. This car would be perfect because it wouldn't have any of the faults he noticed with other vehicles. Too hot, too uncomfortable, not fast enough, not perfectly finished. These would never be used to describe the Lamborghini. Ferruccio noticed that the Ferrari's clutch wasn't any different from Lamborghini's ones in their tractors. He decided to get the former replaced with one of the clutches from the parts list. The problem never returned after that. It was that simple. When the time came to choose a company logo, Ferruccio was determined to use a bull for the same. His zodiac sign was Taurus, and to him, bulls represented immense strength. He likened this power to the power of his cars. This is a recurring theme in Lamborghini cars, with many of their models being named after famous Spanish fighting bulls. The reason, you ask? Ferruccio Lamborghini was an avid fan of Spanish bullfighting. Here's an interesting fact. The first Lamborghini sports car shown to the public did not have an engine. Can you imagine that? Today, the innovative machines, one of Lamborghini's most popular features, were nowhere in sight back in the 60s. This is because there were a few finishing touches that had to be added to the engine before it was fit for public viewing. Though this could have damaged their reputation, it did not. It only enhanced Ferruccio's status as a perfectionist who was unwilling to compromise on quality. Now that is sure to work. Racing was something that Ferruccio was never fond of, considering it to be a waste of time. This indifference began in 1948 when he crashed his home-modified Fiat Topolino in that year's Mille Miglia. Yes, Ferruccio had made so many changes and innovations to his Fiat that he could even use it as a race car. Now who would have thought of that? While everything was smooth sailing in the first few years, the company ran into financial troubles after a while. You could say, like their founder, that they ran off the road. Ferruccio initially sold 51% of his stake in the company, relinquishing control. In no time, he became disenchanted with the company that he had created and sold off his remaining stake, thus cutting off all ties with the company that had his name. Ferruccio now decided to retreat to his farming roots, producing his vines. He thought golf was the next big thing, the right sport for the right people. This led him to designing his golf course. If you have any questions about his experience and knowledge of architecture, you're not alone. He saw over 40 golf courses worldwide and concluded that he knew how to build one himself. This is a level of confidence that you and I can only aspire to have at some point in our lives. There were many comparisons with Enzo Ferrari throughout his life, as one may expect. Ferruccio was indisputably recognized as the more humble of the two. He always had time to spare for those who wanted to talk to him. Enzo's pride ensured that he never spoke to Ferruccio again. In Ferruccio's own words, Enzo was a great man, but it was easy to upset him. This seems like an appropriate time to bring up Frank Sinatra's quote, "You buy a Ferrari when you want to be somebody, you buy a Lamborghini when you are." Ferruccio continued working on his other business interests right until his death in 1993 at the age of 76. It is a testament to his business acumen that all his business ventures have survived to date in some form or the other. Ferruccio didn't dream of becoming an automobile industry magnate. He just knew that a better car could be built. This passion for vehicles, coupled with immense hard work, took him to extraordinary heights. Shortly before his death, he had again amassed considerable wealth, but he saw no reasons to stop working. According to him, when you stop working, you start to die. In simple words, here's what we can learn from him. Do what you love and do it well. If you enjoyed this video, consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons. It does wonders for the YouTube algorithm, so more people can see our videos and so that you can be notified when we launch our next video. We try and put out at least one new one per week, and as you can imagine, the research and editing alone of these type of videos takes us close to 18 hours. So we would really appreciate it if you could also check out our Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can support our work. We produce over 12 videos per month, so that is literally 8 cents per video. Thank you so much, and we'll see you at our next unmasking.